inside Thursday night. How's it going? Alright, strip back, good crack, multi-trade podcast. Share the knowledge you know, help to make our sector grow. Everybody's learning from experts and the journeyman. Insights.
This is Insight, the Stripped Back podcast, sponsored by Robus Lighting, the world's leading LED lighting company. What's the story, everyone? This is the first time that we've done a Van Chats live on TikTok. We've done a few lives now through Instagram, and they've done really well. People have joined, people have jumped in for a chat. So what we usually do is jump on through lunchtime breaks or 10 o'clock breaks and see if anybody wants a quick 10-15 minute chat, or find out a little bit more about the podcast, or a little bit more about myself or Keith, or anything really got to do with even setting up your own podcast if you're thinking of doing it. So yeah, look, at the end of the day, we have a lot of followers that would be trade related, and we'd have a lot of followers that are non-trade related, and we try to cater for everybody. So if you've got to listen to any of our podcasts up until now, you'll see that we try and link in a bit of the trades at the start of every episode, and then try and get somebody from any type of background, if it's sport, media, music, the arts, everything like that, just to try and cater for everybody. And what that's trying to do is introduce people who are not in the trades to the trades, and then introduce people who are in the trades to other types of industries. So I guess if anybody is sort of well up to date with the podcast so far, we've gone through 7 seasons so far of 10 episodes in each season, and we've tried to link in as many people who have stories to tell, or, you know, have important messages or topics that they want to get out there. And that's what the podcast is all about. So myself and Keith were looking to try and ramp up another season, which will be season 8 at the maybe mid-October. Try and get it up and running, and try and run it all the way up to Christmas. So if there's anybody who follows us through TikTok who knows somebody, or maybe somebody themselves has a story that they want to share, just reach out to us through DMs on TikTok. I think the link is in our bio to our link page as well, where you can find, you know, our email address and stuff like that. You can get us through Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the social media platforms are all there. We try to share as much as possible onto each platform. But yeah, look, it's been a whirlwind for us so far as well. Trying to get up to speed with podcasting in less than 12 months. When myself and Keith first started out, we had a microphone from Amazon that we both shared, and we used to put it on the table in front of us, and the two of us would share talking into it, and we'd chat with guests from all over Ireland and the UK, and we wouldn't even be able to see their face because we weren't even doing video chats even on the audio recorded episode. So it was like we were just ringing people up and having a chat with them over the phone. But lucky for us, the podcast got a bit of traction over the course of the first few months, or the first couple of seasons anyway, and we were able to get a sponsor on board, which sort of boosted the podcast way beyond what we thought it could ever do. I think when myself and Keith first started doing it, we thought it'd be just myself and him chatting. We'd put out a bit of content, and maybe it might resonate with the odd trade professional here and there, and, you know, myself and Keith would enjoy it, and we'd just keep going and doing it as a bit of a hobby. But untoward, I mean, it's not something that we wanted to make a business out of, and maybe it's not even a business quite yet, because any type of sponsorship that comes into the podcast goes straight back into the podcast. And I think that's what people have to realise as well. They think you can go from 0 to 100, or you try to look for that sponsorship and it's all about getting paid. But I think if you have that mindset where you want to get the quick buck, or, you know, the sponsorship money coming in because you want to put it in your back pocket, I think it's completely the wrong attitude to have. Because I think you'll never grow your podcast, you'll never evolve it, and eventually then it'll just run its course and it'll, run into a wall, and eventually people will get tired of it as well. So I think when we first started out, any first bit of influx of money that came in, we reinvested it straight away in audio equipment. So we got the Rodecaster Pro 2, we got some microphones, we got some wireless mics, and we started using them, and we were still using them as well just for audio episodes. Like, nobody could see that on any of our content, nobody could see that on any of the episodes that were published. So I think, like, if you see any of the first episodes from season 1 into season 2 and 3, you can see the progression of the podcast as we started adding to it over time. And I think that sort of helped us grow our followers, and people sort of grew with the podcast. So any early listeners were able to nearly grow along with the podcast and see how well we sort of evolved over time, which eventually has come to a podcast studio in our sponsors' headquarters in Dublin, Ireland. So Robust Lighting was one of the first, and they were the most appealing sponsor that got in touch with us because they're Irish, and they wanted us to keep control of the artistic rights of the podcast as well. They didn't want to get involved. They didn't want to tell us what to do. They were delighted to see us sort of grow and make decisions that were helping the podcast get to where it got to be without, sort of external influences coming in or telling you who you should be talking to or who you shouldn't be talking to, And I think if you're doing a podcast or you're thinking of doing a podcast in whatever field you're thinking of doing it in, that's the most important thing you can keep is your intellectual property. Your idea is your idea, and no matter how much money is put in front of you, or studios being built for you, or any type of help that's along the way, you should never sort of relinquish that intellectual property or the ownership of your podcast, because once somebody starts coming in and changing things or changing how you do things, or has an opinion on who you should talk to or who you shouldn't talk to, I think you lose all credibility for it then, and nobody wants it. People can see that straight away as well, you know what I mean? You can see that you're not interested in talking to the person you're talking to, and you're only doing it because your sponsor wants you to do it. So just something to think about, because there's a lot of people that DM myself and Keith on Instagram and even through email as well, since we've put the bio link up on Instagram, asking us for support or information or how we do things. And as I say to them all, I said, we're learning as we go as well. So we sort of learn from our mistakes, which have been costly mistakes. There's been some crazy mistakes where we've done, 2-hour interviews with people and then realised at the end of it that, one of the mics wasn't plugged in and we lost a complete 2 hours and we lost the interview. And luckily enough, some of the guests have actually stayed and done an interview twice with us. So we've actually interviewed the same person twice in one night. And funnily enough, the second time around was actually better because we had some sort of an idea of what they told us before. So we were able to navigate the conversation in certain directions. But I think that the podcast industry, obviously worldwide, is massive. It's absolutely booming, but I think in Ireland it's still at its infancy. And obviously there is a lot of podcasts out there where people say they shouldn't be allowed to buy mics or they shouldn't allow to have podcasts. I think anybody who picks up a microphone or puts a camera in front of them and has the confidence to get out there and talk to people, or even go solo and just talk into a microphone and talk into a camera, has to be commended, because it's not easy. It really isn't. I remember sitting in the kitchen at the start with the Amazon mic in front of me and just trying to do a bit of an intro and an outro for some of the episodes, and listening to your own voice back is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. And when you're doing your own editing, which we do for the podcast, so we do the producing, we do the editing, we do the interviewing, so we have full control over everything. But when you have to sit there and listen to an hour long or an hour and a half long interview and listen to your own voice back, it's sometimes it's not very flattering, but you do get used to it. But just looking at some of the comments coming in here straight off the bat as well. Like, you know what I mean? It's got such a reach on it as well. A lot of people reaching out saying hello, and we really appreciate that. So the podcast, like I said in one of the posts that I put up there the other day, the podcast made it to #1 on the Apple Podcasts Business and Careers chart this week, which has been absolutely amazing. It's something that I think once we've seen the podcast get onto the charts, we pop in and out and we take a look at it all the time. And I put a lot of pictures up across social media showing our chart position every month or every week. And that's more just for us as a goal setter for ourselves, that we can see that the podcast is progressing. It's not gloating. It's not trying to put down any other podcasts that are in the same chart or in the same sort of genre as us. But it's great to be able to keep those type of images or put those type of messages out as a memento, because if you don't do that, why are you doing it? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you're having fun, you're enjoying it, you're seeing it do well, you're seeing it be successful. And if you're not sort of taking a moment to take a snapshot of the progress you've made and the time and effort that you've put into it, and how then it has sprouted up as flowers and has just, you know, done really well and has sort of resonated with listeners, it's a shame not to appreciate that. And you appreciating your own success is not something that, you know, makes you egotistic or makes you vain in any way. It's just, you know, the time and effort you've put into it, especially when you're sitting down and it's 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning and the rest of your family's gone to bed. You're trying to get a podcast episode edited out to get it out for a Monday morning. So when you see that #1 spot show up on the Apple's chart, or even if it's top 10 or top 20, even to be there, it's just, it's a great recognition, you know. So I think for anybody who follows us and takes anything away from any of our episodes, not every episode is catered to, you know, every listener. I know that myself from listening to other people's podcasts. It's definitely something that you sort of do, you put out there and you let it grow. And sometimes some of the episodes that we've put out, they start off slow and you start to panic and you start to think, Jesus, I don't think that episode was actually quite popular, you know. And then 3 or 4 months later, then you start to see it develop, you start to see the numbers go up. And you know, there's no science behind it, there's no right or wrong thing to do. You just get the microphone in front of you, you get your guest in front of you if you have one, and you just start talking. And if you've done a bit of prep and you start to get a hang of it and you start to realise the ins and outs or how to, you know, navigate certain conversations, it'll start to work for you. And I think people listening to it then will start to appreciate it as well. So yeah, like what I'm saying, I'm here on TikTok today. I'll probably be on Instagram another day. I jump on during these lunch times. If there's anybody who's in the trade and wants to jump on and wants to have a chat, you know, they can spare 10, 15 minutes during their lunch break. A few hellos coming in there. I'll say hello back to you and just get a conversation going for 10, 15 minutes while you're having your chicken fillet roll or whatever, you know. So what I'll do is I'll wrap it up. But if you are interested in the podcast, or you're interested in just seeing the clips that we're putting up on here, we're available on Spotify, we're available on Apple, Amazon, Audible, all the major podcast platforms. And we're not fully trade based. We've had pro boxers on, we've had actors on, we've had stage actors on, we've had Kira Dignam, singer, on, we've had people from all different types of backgrounds who have been through some heavy stuff in their life, and they're just there to share a message or share a bit of advice, you know. And I think anybody who's out there and wants to take anything away from any type of episode that we put out, if it's one person, if it's two person, that just takes a little bit from any episode we put out, that's exactly why we're doing it, and that's why we'll keep on doing it. So look, there's some great other podcasts out there that we've been on as well. 1040, I can see him writing in the comments there. We've been on his podcast as well, so he's a podcast supporting other podcasts, so you can head over to 1040 as well, check out his podcast. We've been on it, our full story is on there, so if you want to learn a bit more about myself and Keith, our background, coming out of school, getting into the trades, Keith going self-employed, me staying as an employed worker within a company, and how we both came together then as cousins and just decided to set up a podcast, and how it's sort of excelled on from there. So yeah, look, you can get it through our podcast, you can get it through 1040, and I think it's a good story to tell. And you know, it's just hopefully mid-October we'll get ramped up. We'll try and rock all the way up to Christmas and see how that one goes. No announcements of guests yet, but we're doing a bit of work in the background, so keep an eye out on TikTok, keep an eye out on Instagram, and we will try to put up as much content over the next few weeks just to keep people happy. But take it easy, I'm going to head back to work now, and have a great day.